Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crilley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. This is part 2 of a 2-part series showing how to draw an action sequence, in particular a guy being chased by a giant monster. Last week I showed how to draw the guy, and I'll put a link to that video in the description if you want to go back and watch it. This week we're going to be showing how to draw the monster. So let's go ahead and get started with a few basic guidelines. So these are guidelines for the head. I know it sort of looks like a gigantic hat. Like he was wearing an oversized hat that got blown off by the wind. No, this is the mouth of the monster. This is the eye. All of this will look better as I go along, but you know, these are the basic guidelines. They're not supposed to look amazing. Let's go ahead and draw. Well, I'll draw the spine and then maybe go down towards the legs. So it may be a little tricky to see what I'm doing here, but this is the spine, the monster's spine. This is the sort of pelvis area. And here I'm going to replicate the pose here of the running legs. And the one bent at the knee coming up, this is going to be the foot, the sort of monster claw-like foot. And then a straight leg, just like we had here, coming down. With another foot that's going to be a little more animal-like. Let's go ahead and get the basic guidelines in for that and maybe add a few lines for the individual claws. So hopefully that makes it a little easier to understand what that's all supposed to be. Let's go ahead and maybe all at once I'm going to go ahead and draw the lines of the shoulders and the arms. So you can't really see the other shoulder over here, but this would be the sort of joint of where the upper arm joins the shoulder. Both arms bent at the elbows. And the last thing we're going to do right now before going into real time is to draw the basic guidelines of the hands. Alright, so I've got the basic guidelines in place here, and you don't necessarily have to make yours exactly the same. I mean, it's a monster. It's a creation of the imagination. You can kind of do whatever you want. But what I want to do right now is to refocus the camera here in the area of the head, and we're going to do all the basic lines of the head in real time. Alright, so lots of details to get into here. I think what I'll do first is to kind of refine the shape of the mouth opening. And then get into drawing the teeth. And of course, any good monster's got to have plenty of good, sharp, spiky teeth. So that's really what we're going to be doing. Down here, I guess I can kind of keep this largely as it was. I like it when you can see the gums of your monster's teeth. So I'm bringing down the individual sharp teeth themselves. Can you hear that? Today's garbage day, folks. They are coming by to pick up my garbage, so I'm sorry if you hear the sound of a big truck coming by. This is the real-life quality of YouTube. So I'm just kind of adding in teeth without a whole super clear plan here. I kind of like it when the monster's teeth are a little irregular anyway. But I have put the two largest teeth on the right and left, and I'll come down here and kind of do the same thing. I'm having them curve very slightly inward for holding the prey inside your mouth. I think there's enough space for about 3 teeth down here. And once I've got that in place, I suppose I could draw the tongue. Imagine it sort of back here at the bottom. And I think I'll give one of those classic, is it the glottal stop? This you can sort of see when someone's mouth is wide open, or the tonsils. I'm not even sure. That thing, you know what I'm talking about, hanging back there. Maybe get a few lines in here that suggest the structure of the interior of the mouth. I'm sure I'll be doing a lot of shading here later on. Let's erase this guideline here for the most part and begin to get an indication of nostrils up here. I gotta watch myself. Everything becomes a region. The nostriller region. That one doesn't work at all. The nostrillatory. There we go. The nostrillatory region. Sounds much more scientific that way. And I'm going to give him just a slight point here at the top of the upper jaw. So here's the actual openings of the nostrils. People might say, looks like eyes. These are the eyes, and this is the mouth. No, these are the eyes over here. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get in. I like when there's sort of like an awning above the eyes, this sort of scaly type, shielding type of thing, because it has a dual purpose of protecting the eye. You know, it looks logical, like it would be there to protect the eye, but it also looks a little bit like an eyebrow and helps your monster look angrier and scarier. Horns, gotta have horns. Any decent monster's gotta have horns. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple back here, maybe gently curving upwards. When you're drawing horns, you can either have them curve upwards or downwards, or even spiral a bit, like a ram's horn. But I'm going to just do a gentle curve upwards. Maybe toss in a few lines here to get a sense of the surface. This one, I imagine, would be coming back here, sort of pointing away, a little harder to see. Just sort of drop in an indication of it. Hope that works. Shouldn't the nostrils be flared, Crilly? Intaking air as he is on the attack. And then down here, I think, well, anywhere in this drawing you can do whatever you like, but I sort of feel like down here especially, there's no pre-established way of drawing the remainder of the head. You should feel free to get creative. I'm going to draw maybe some bags under the eyes. The monster has had trouble sleeping lately. So hungry for the flesh of this man that he finally is able to chase after. I'm going to put in some little scaly formations here. And how about another horn, huh? Why not? Well, the monster only gets to have 2 horns? Come on, Crilly, give him another horn. Come on, live it up. So I'm adding in an extra horn here. I don't know if you would see that back on this other side, maybe a little bit. All this stuff, you know, if you modeled it out of clay or something, you would have a much clearer idea of what's visible from what angles. And I know that some artists will do that, you know, even for the comics and stuff. They'll build actual sets and things so that they can see what things look like realistically from a variety of angles. Well, we finally got the head done here. I suppose I could, well, I think I better refocus the camera, and then we're going to do the arm that's closest to us. Actually, we're able to fit both arms into the frame, so I'll go ahead and I'll do this arm over here. Now, I thought it would add to the drama, the excitement of the image if the monster is so close that you almost see you know, the overlap between the two. This forearm is coming right behind his hand, and so you just visually it signals to the viewer, oh man, hey, this monster is really close. You must have really been booking. So we get this forearm indicated here. I'm going to sort of erase as I go along the initial skeletal guideline that gave me some sense of, you know, the pose of the arm. This is actually the wrist area here, these 2 lines. And I suppose it's time to go ahead and get the nuclear region in place for this monster. I've decided has 3 fingers on each claw. And I'm going to use these initial guidelines that I put here to help me sort of draw each individual claw, finger. It is a sort of humanoid monster. It has the basics of a human body, but then of course you change everything to make it more monstery. Monstorian. And it would be helpful, I think, if you're, you know, this is kind of cartoony, my style today, so I'm kind of winging it and making it up as I go. But if you were designing like a real monster for like a movie or something, I'm sure people use reference and they look at a reptilian claws from the animal kingdom and so forth to give it that feeling of authenticity, rather than just completely making up. I suppose, like the alien or whatever from the movie Alien. I don't know if any of that is based. Let me know if you know in the comment section. Is any of that based on reference, or did they completely make it up? Did Geiger completely invent the design without any reference to real life stuff? I'm not sure. I would not be at all surprised to hear that he did actually look at real life stuff as he made that design, because it just brings a certain authenticity to it. But I'm not doing any authenticity today. I'm just sort of making it up as I go. Now you can see how I used those initial lines. I probably should have been talking about that instead of gabbing about the Alien movie. But each one of those helped me sort of build, and if you get an idea of Knuckles across here, that helps you see where each one of them are going to bend, coming down to the claws, and each one of them sort of curving inward. And this line back here to me is, maybe I'll shade it in real quickly, is the sort of underside of the palm. And now that I've got that in place, I can go ahead and draw his bicep. Pretty sure this is the bicep here. I do get confused, as famously confused when it comes to muscle nomenclature. And that would be the deltoid. In a way, the monster's anatomy is so outside the realm of that initial guideline that you might wonder, what's the point of drawing this sort of stick figure thing, and then the monster's muscles are gigantic and seem to have nothing to do. I just like to have a stick figure at the root of it, to sort of give me the basic pose that I'm going for. And then, yeah, sure enough, as it goes along, it all gets erased anyway. So you don't even have to, if you find that it's not helpful to draw such a skeletal sort of stick figure thing, just don't do it. Just move on to these contour lines. No two methods work the same for any two artists. Everyone comes up with their own ways of doing things. So here I am drawing what I believe are the deltoids. The deltoideal... Stop it, Mark! Stop talking about the various regions. But I showed it last time when I was drawing the guy, and it's barely in frame, happily, but his elbow, this point at the end of the stick figure, was indeed helpful for placing the elbow. And then after that, I can sort of imagine where everything else is going to be. Let's draw the forearm here. Again, let me know if you feel that it's useful to do something like this all real time. I do become sort of aware of the fact that the video feels like it's dragging a little as I try to do the entire thing without time-lapse. But having done the other one this way, I thought, for consistency's sake, let's go ahead and do this, all these basic lines of the monster also in real time. So you can see I used that elbow line to sort of connect to the hand, and then you're getting a little extra musculature over here for the forearm. Let's go ahead and do, well, how about if I allow myself, because I did this all real time, I'll do this claw in time-lapse. Huh? Right? Can't I do some time-lapse, people? And that'll help us speed along towards the conclusion. So I'll go ahead and do the claw right now. Alright, so I got the claw drawn in, and it's time to move on to finishing off this arm. The bicep. And here, indeed, we really are going to stray so far from that initial guideline that you do sort of wonder, what's the point of drawing a guideline like that? Because the chest is so huge compared to it. But, just imagining it as the spine, it helps me to have that there at the beginning, whether it makes sense or not. And we'll come down here. A lot of this gets obscured by that arm. Let's get some of the sort of rib cage lines in here. And now I think I need to refocus the camera so that we can draw the legs and the bottom claws. Before we do that, though, how about if I add in a little bit of fur? I thought it could be more interesting if the monster has a blend of like human attributes, or the muscular, the anatomy looks sort of just like a human being, sort of like a super beefy Hulk-like human being. But if I added some hair, I thought that could contribute to the monsteriness of this monster. So of course if I do that over here, I need to be consistent and get some over here. I'm not going to have it all over the entire character. Just sort of a decorative addition. I thought also maybe some claws coming off of here. Those aren't claws, spikes, horns. I'll have three each. How about that? Of course, once you've got that in place, you have to be consistent and sort of figure where would it be over here. I'm thinking it's going to be coming across like on this side, right? So a little hard to see because it gets obscured by him, but we'll hopefully be able to sneak it in there. Anyway, just to keep things moving, I'm going to say that that's the end of the fur and the horns and so forth, and we're going to refocus the camera so as to draw the rest of the legs. So just as I did with the elbow, I'll use the end of this line for placing the kneecap of this leg that is closer to us. And again, the pose is based off of the our hero over there who's running away. Their legs are kind of in a similar pose. And I don't know if people who are, people who are being chased, do they subconsciously end up with their legs in the same position? I really don't know. As the monster that's chasing, do we have any statistics on that? In any case, I felt it was sort of nice to have them echoing one another, these two running poses. I'm going to go ahead and erase the initial guideline for this leg. I'm going to get a little bit of an indication of the kneecap area here so as to help me finish this off. I guess there would be muscles, and if you're going by human anatomy, there probably are specific muscles. I'm kind of just winging it at this stage. But I am going to try to get that sort of bone of the ankle down here as we come down to the legs. And here, rather than having just ordinary feet, I am going to give him sort of clawed, maybe slightly dragon-like feet. This monster's design, I'm sure, is a little bit inspired by the Rancor from the Return of the Jedi. Great monster design there. And I'm sure an awful lot of people are indebted to that design when they draw monsters. It's sort of like the prototypical monster-y monster. And going in here, just as I did for the fingers, just having them sort of curve back, getting some indication of the knuckles. And maybe we'll get some fur in here as well, near the ankles. I'm just sort of making this up as I go. Like the hobbits. Don't the hobbits have fur on their feet? Maybe they are distantly related, the hobbits and this monster. You heard it here first, folks. And we'll move down to this other leg. Now I am tempted to do this time lapse, but it's in such a different position. I think anyone who's following along probably would shake their fists at me. How dare you go into time lapse just when I needed you to do it in real time? So I am going to keep it in real time for now as I go back and sort of show how to draw one of these clawed feet that is firmly planted on the ground, and so sort of bending forward. I'll start by drawing the three claws up here, and then separate this into the individual toes. And I am pleased to report that is bringing us to the end of the real-time drawing part of the video. My apologies if it wasn't scintillating. It does become a little tricky to think of things to say after a point. I'm always in this tug of war. A lot of people say, please don't ever use any time-lapse ever, which is almost impossible. I've done it every once in a while, but it's so hard to keep a video to a reasonable length if you don't use any time-lapse at all. I tried to do an awful lot of real-time drawing in this video. Hopefully people will be pleased about that. And let's go ahead and refocus the camera. I'm going to pull out my brown Prismacolor pencil, just as I did last week, and I'm going to do all of the final line work. Alright, so that takes care of the line work, and I am bringing out my watercolor. Going to do just a little bit of this real time, but sadly, yeah, I think it's basically, repeating information that I taught in last week's video in terms of watercolor technique. If indeed I said anything at all about watercolor technique. I think this is more about the drawing. Let's go with that. Yes, this one was about the drawing. And that's why there's not so much information about the coloring. In any case, I feel like I took so much time to get through the basic line work that we do have to sort of make up for it by speeding through this coloring section, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'll color all this stuff in time-lapse with the watercolors, and then probably go straight from that into continuing the pastel down here, and then we'll be back with a few final words. Alright, well that concludes my two-part series on drawing an action scene. I hope you found it helpful, but of course this can't be over until I add the blushies. So let's go ahead and do that with a few strokes of this, what is this, sort of an orangey, brownish, reddish Prismacolor pencil. Let's give this guy some blushies too, why not? In the heat of the chase, he found that he had blushies. And that brings us to the end of this. Hang on, I'm going to grab my books so that I can thank anyone who has supported me by getting them. Brody's Ghost and Miki Falls, my two graphic novel series, as well as the Realism Challenge, my book on hyper-realistic illustration. Of course, there's Mastering Manga and Mastering Manga 2. And next week, Tuesday, July 5th, The Drawing Lesson, my very newest book. I really am super appreciative of anyone who helps me by getting those books, but I think it's time for me to lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll be back with another one real soon.